Prabhum Tata Janavatar Chaitanya Lila Vishtar Karino Jo Nityananda Prabja Karunadena Bhushito Vyakta Chino Burachincho Bhavande Vyasarupino Shri Guru Gaur Gandharva Govindascha Ganai Saha Jayanti Pachakascha Sarvesham Guru Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. So today is Thursday, today is Dwadashi, and Guru Maharaj's disappearance day is Sunday, right? Yeah. Okay.
And Saturday we have program.
Right. No, I'm just thinking in terms of our Vaishnava calendar.
Oh yeah.
Am I missing anything else these days? And then after that, maybe the next day is Rupa Goswami's disappearance day, maybe.
Disappearance of Srila Bamsidas Babaji Maharaj is on Thursday the 12th.
Okay.
Sunday the 8th is disappearance of Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
And then after that Sunday, on Thursday, is the disappearance of Srila Bamsidas Babaji Maharaj.
Okay.
And then appearance of Trivikram Maharaj.
Trivikram Maharaj, yes.
That is on Saturday, on that Saturday next week.
Okay. Okay. And what day is Rupa Goswami's disappearance day? Must be coming soon. Okay. Well, coming in the next few weeks.
Oh, the 19th.
19th.
That is after another Ekadasi comes then.
Okay.
On the 18th.
All right.
Oh, the 18th you're leaving?
The 16th I leave, yeah.
Okay, then at least you don't travel on the Ekadasi.
I usually try to make sure that I don't travel.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because whenever I do, it is always a little austere.
So it's one day for the next Ekadasi, the 18th.
Okay.
Now it's the 4th, 5th, 5th.
Or 6th. It's the 5th, is it?
5th.
Okay.
So 18
And then Rupa
that,
Goswami, okay. That's the day that Gurudev took second initiation.
Oh yeah.
And Rupa Goswami's disappearance day. Yeah. He took first initiation on Rath Yatra day, and then second on Rupa Goswami's.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Okay, we'll continue with Chaitanya Chart. So we didn't get very far.
Yeah, and
but
I skipped that chapter.
Don't worry. But maybe I'll read through today so we cover more. So pick up with verse number 8. We're just starting, Kaviraj Goswami is just starting to describe, to list the specific branches of Nityananda Prabhu's branch. Shri Virabhadra Goskai Skanda Mahashaka Tarupa Shaka Jata Sankyata Aleka. After Nityananda Prabhu, the greatest branch is Virabhadra Gosai, who also has innumerable branches and sub-branches. It is not possible to describe them all. Ishwar hoya kahai Mahabhagavata Veda Dharma Tita hoya Veda Dharmirata. Although Virabhadra Gosai was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he presented himself as a great devotee. So this is who we normally refer to as Virachandra Prabhu. He's also known as Virabhadra. Yeah, in the purport it's mentioned he was the direct son of Nityananda Prabhu, a disciple of Janava Devi, and his mother was Vasudha. So Nityananda Prabhu had these two wives, right? Vasudha and Janava. And Vasudha was his birth mother, and then Janava, because Janava Devi, she became, she was like the leader, really. After the departure of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, then Janava Devi took responsibility, like, for the whole group of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And so she was like leader, and she was like giving initiation. So Veer Chandra, Veer Bhaja took from her, Janava.
And that's his mother?
Stepmother.
Okay.
His mother was Vasudha Devi. But stepmother, the other wife. They were sisters, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
I believe they were sisters.
Yeah.
Their father was also a great devotee, but I can't remember his name, right? Vasudha y Janua, los dos esposas de Nityananda. Pero la padre, ¿recuerdes? La padre de Janava Devi. He's famous. Subal-Sakha. He's Subal-Sakha in Krishna Lila. And then it was either him or his brother in Gora Lila was their father. But anyway, doesn't mention here. Ishar hoya kahai Mahabhagavat. I read that. Virabhaja was the Supreme Lord, but he presented himself as a devotee. And although he was transcendental to all Vedic injunctions, he still strictly followed the Vedic rituals, even though he didn't need to. And this is the tendency of the devotee. Even though they are above, the general guidelines of the Vedas, they're still, out of humility, they're trying to follow. So this is a nice example. Even if you're not qualified, then, even if you are qualified to step over those things, the natural mood of the devotee is to try to adhere to them.
As an example for the other.
Partly, that's true, and also out of humility, thinking, oh, who am I to step over this? Their tendency is to feel that they are not qualified to go to a higher level of devotion. But then it'll be like an irresistible pull. The Lord will give that inspiration in the heart, and then like in Madhavendra Puri's verse that Gurudev was chanting in his final days, he's apologizing to all of these rituals, these daily rituals of religious life. He's apologizing. Please forgive me. I cannot follow you. My heart's being pulled to Krishna's lotus feet. I think I can get everything there. So please forgive me. I cannot follow the morning, noon, and evening, mantra, prayers, and this practice and that practice, and these ancestral rites, and please forgive me. I cannot follow these things. So there's no arrogance there. Antare Ishwar Cheshta Bahire Nirdamba Chaitanya Bhakti Mandape Teo Mulastamba. He is the main pillar in the hall of devotional service, erected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew within himself that he acted as the Supreme Lord Vishnu, but externally he was prideless. Adyapi jahar kripa mahima hoite, Chaitanya Nityananda gai sakal jagate. It is by the glorious mercy of Sri Virabhaja Gosai that people all over the world now have the chance to chant the names of Chaitanya and Nityananda. Se Virabhaja Gosai loinu sharan jahar prasade hoy abhishta puran. I therefore take shelter of the lotus feet of Virabhaja Gosai, so that by his mercy my great desire to write Ch.Ch. Charitamrita will be properly guided. And so, as Janava Devi, took the rudder, or she had that role as a leader. Then after her, then Veera Chandra Prabhu, Veera Bhadra, he took that role, as I understand. And what we always remember about him is that Gurudev described him as being, and maybe this is from some poetry of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he was even more merciful than Nityananda Prabhu. So we're always hearing about the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, but Veera Chandra is even more, even more so. Shri Ram Dasar Gadadara Das Chaitanya Gosayar Bhakta Rohitar Pash. Two devotees of Lord Chaitanya named Shri Ram Das and Gadadhar Das always lived with Shri Virabhadra Gosai. And in the purport it says that this Ram Das was later known as Abhiram Thakur, and he was one of the 12 Gopals of Nityananda. So these, we were mentioning yesterday how Nityananda had his own circle of cowherd boys, and there were 12 principal ones. And so this Ram Das was one of those. And he was formerly Sri Dhamma. Nityanande agya dilo jabe gore jaite Mahaprabhu e dui dilatar sate Ateva dui gane duhar ganan Madhavasudev goshe rawe vivadam. When Nityananda Prabhu was ordered to go to Bengal to preach, these two devotees, Ram Das and Gadadhar Das, were ordered to go with him. And this Gadadhar Das, he's mentioned, here it's not mentioned about him, but I think in Heart and Halo there's a commentary, that, of course, that this is separate from Gadadhar, this is a different Gadadhar, not Gadadhar Pandit. And I think it's mentioned that he was considered an associate of both Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu. He had connection with both. Oh, sorry, that's what I'm reading right here. Well, because Mahaprabhu had his special group of associates, and then Nityananda Prabhu also had his own special group of associates. Also Krishna and Balaram, they had their own. But there are some who have equal with both sides. So, but actually it's saying that right here in the next verse. So they are, when Nityananda was ordered to go to Bengal to preach, these two devotees were ordered to go with him. Thus they are sometimes counted among the devotees of Lord Chaitanya and sometimes among the devotees of Lord Nityananda. Similarly, Madhava Ghosh and Vasudev Ghosh belong to both groups of devotees simultaneously. Ramdas Mukhya Shaka Sakya Premanasi Shola Sangir Kashta Je Tuli Koila Vamshi. Ramdas, one of the chief branches, was full of fraternal love of Godhead. So Sakya Ras, in the mood of friendship. He made a flute from a stick with 16 knots. And I don't know if we use that anymore, that measurement. Do you know that? What it means by a knot?
The openings, I think.
Oh, okay. They're called the opening. So how many are there usually in a flute? We have a flute player here.
Yeah, maybe 7 or 8.
Okay. So this is unusually long. Gadadhar Das Gopi Bhave Purnananda Jai Gode Dana Keli Koilo Nityananda. Srila Gadadhar Das was always fully absorbed in ecstasy as a gopi. In his house, Lord Nityananda enacted the drama Dana Keli. Srimadav Ghosh Mukhya Kirtaniya Gane, Nityananda Prabhu Nitya Kore Jar Gane. Sri Madhava Ghosh was a principal performer of kirtan. While he sang, Nityananda Prabhu danced. Vasudev Gite Kore Prabhu Varnane, Kashta Pashana Jave Jaha Shavane. When Vasudev Ghosh described Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda while performing kirtan, even wood and stone would melt upon hearing it. Murari Chaitanya Dasya Alokika Lila Vyagra Gale Chadamade Sarpa Sanekela. There were many extraordinary activities performed by Murari, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes in his ecstasy, he would slap the cheek of a tiger, and sometimes he would play with a venomous snake. So this is not Murari Gupta, this is a different Murari Chaitanya, it mentions in the purport. Oh, he's also Saranga Murari. Sometimes we hear that pastime of Saranga Murari in Moda Drumadweep. We go there on the last day of the Navadvip. There's a special temple.
Murari. Surrender? He's a surrender?
What did you say?
Surrender?
Surrender. Wait, no entiendes.
Señor Nityananda?
Sí.
He surrendered Murari.
Surrender to...
I understand.
No, I'm saying that porque un otro Murari. Sí, Murari Gupta, pero es diferente. No es el mismo. Pero también tiene el nombre Saranga. Oh, this is what Saranga. Saranga Murari. Sí, en Navadvip tiene un templo para ella. Moda, la 4 días de parikrama. Maybe you remember. There's some special pastime with him that he brought somebody back to life. Because he ordered, you remember that pastime? He was ordered in his last days. There was a deity he was worshipping, and the Lord told him to take a disciple to continue with the worship and the service, and so he said, okay, next time I go out, the first person I see, I will give initiation. You remember that story? So the next person he saw was a dead person. So this is the same. Okay, I didn't know. So he's counted among the associates of Mahaprabhu. So he had no material bodily features. He was completely spiritual. Thus he would sometimes chase after tigers in the jungle and treat them just like cats and dogs. He would slap the cheek of a tiger and take a venomous snake on his lap. He had no fear of his external body, He could spend all 24 hours of the day chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or speaking about Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda. Sometimes he would remain submerged in water for 2 or 3 days, but he would feel no bodily inconvenience. Thus he behaved almost like stone or wood, but he always used his energy in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. No one can describe his specific characteristics, but it is understood that wherever Murari Chaitanya Das passed, whoever was present would be enlightened in Krishna consciousness simply by the atmosphere that he created. This is an excerpt from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Anubhashya, his commentary on this verse. Whoever was present would be enlightened in Krishna consciousness simply by the atmosphere that he created. And this is what we feel in the presence of the great souls. Just to be within just to be before them, the atmosphere is transformed. Nityananda Ganjata Sabraja Saka Shingavecha Gopave Shire Shikipaka. All the associates of Lord Nityananda were formerly cowherd boys in Braja Bhumi. Their symbolic representations were the horns and sticks they carried, their cowherd dress, and the peacock plumes on their heads. And it says here that Janavam, in the purport, Janavamata is also within the list of Lord Nityananda's followers. She is described in the Gauragana Jashtipika as a Nanga Manjari of Vrindavan. All the devotees who are followers of Janavamata are counted within the list of Sri Nityananda Prabhu's devotees. Raghunath Vaidya Upajay Mahashoy Jahar Darshane Krishna Prema Bhakti Hoy. The physician Raghunath, also known as Upajay, was so great a devotee that simply by seeing him one would awaken his dormant love of Godhead. Sundarananda Nityananda Shaka Britya Marma Jai Sange Nityananda Kode Brajanarma. The 16th dear servant of Nityananda Prabhu was Dhananjaya Pandit. He was very much renounced and always merged in love of Krishna. He was also one of these 12 principal Gopals. He's Vasudama in Braja Leela. And he was a resident of the village of Katwa. And then he spent his last years in Vrindavan. It sounds like. Or he would go back and forth, Vrindavan and Bengal. Mahesh Pandit Braja Udar Gopal Dakavaje Nitya Kode Preme Matoyal. Mahesh Pandit, the 7th of the 12 Gopals, was very liberal. In great love of Krishna, he danced to the beating of a kettle drum like a madman. Navadipe Purushottam Pandit Mahashoy Nityananda Namejar Mahon Madavoy. Purushottam Pandit, a resident of Navadip, was the 8th Gopal. He would become almost mad as soon as he heard the holy name of Nityananda Prabhu. And he is Stoka Krishna in Braja Leela, in Krishna Leela. Balaram Das Krishna Prema Rasasvadi Nityananda Name Hoy Parama Unmadi. Balaram Das always fully tasted the nectar of love of Krishna. Upon hearing the name of Nityananda Prabhu, he would become greatly maddened. Mahabhagavat Jadunata Kavi Chandra Jahar Hidoye Nitya Kore Nityananda. Jadunath Kavi Chandra was a great devotee. Lord Nityananda Prabhu always danced in his heart. Radhe Jar Janma Krishnadas Dvijavar Shri Nityananda Teho Parama Kinkar. The 21st devotee of Nityananda in Bengal was Krishna Das Brahman, who was a first-class servant of the Lord. Kala Krishna Das Bodho Vaishnav Pradam Nityananda Chandra Vino Nahi Janeyan. The 22nd devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Kala Krishna Das, who was the 9th cowherd boy. He was a first-class Vaishnav and did not know anything beyond Nityananda Prabhu. So he's mentioned a few times in this Kala Krishna Das. Also he's known as Kaliya Krishna Das. And he was formerly formerly is not exactly, but he's Lavanga in Krishna Lila. And he's one of the 12 cowherd boys. And so this Kaliya Krishnadas is the famous pastime associated with him. He gets taken away by these gypsies, right? The Bhattataris, and then Mahaprabhu personally goes and brings him. But then later Mahaprabhu, he expresses his displeasure and rejects him from his group. But Nityananda Prabhu takes him in, engages him. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there was an incident in the mission at one time, and Saraswati Thakur gave an instruction drawing upon this example, saying that, in the mood of Mahaprabhu, like I'm in the role of the Acharya, the Guru, so following the example of Mahaprabhu, I cannot accept this person. But you, following the mood of Nityananda Prabhu, you have to accept this person. So it's a very wonderful example. Just because Guru is rejecting someone for their own purpose, it does not mean that we all do that, So sometimes the disciples have to show more magnanimity, that feeling of friendship should always be there. Not, sometimes we can be eager to, because we're envious, envy is our main disease in this world. So if we get happy, right? Like Bhakti Vinod Thakur sings. We get happy if we see someone's in trouble, and then we want to jump onto that, We want to what's the word? Like there's the new favorite person to hate, So, oh yeah, that person's so bad, But there's never an excuse for that. So we have to be magnanimous. Even if our Guru, even if the Lord is rejecting someone, it may not necessarily be appropriate for us to follow that, We have to, that friendship, that feeling of friendship should always be there with our fellow God brothers and God sisters. Shri Sadashiva Kaviraj Bodho Mahashoy Shri Purushottam Das Tahar Tanoi. The 23rd and 24th prominent devotees. And also, and like this is something we would experience with Gurudev. Like you can't just take one isolated incident or one isolated statement, right, from Guru. Like in this time he's saying this, but you have to look at the total of his relationship with that person. And sometimes he's saying something to instruct that person, he's chastising them out of intimacy. It doesn't mean that they're not very dear to him. So we have to be, it is immature if we jump on one thing that Guru says at one time. We have to look at the sum total of everything he said and the sum total of his relationship with someone. We cannot just look at one thing. Srila Sridhar Maharaj commented that, whenever I'm going to speak anything, I'm considering everything that I heard from my Guru Maharaj, not just one statement, but everything, I've heard. I'm considering everything that I've read in the scriptures and everything that I've heard from the senior Vaishnavas, I'm considering all of these things before I go to give some teaching or make some statement, Because if you just take one thing here and one thing there, it's like, like we joke about, like Prabhupada said, or Gurudev said, you can take anything they said to suit whatever you want, right? Anything you want, you can choose something that they said to support it. But you have to consider everything that he said, not only that. So also in the Lord and the Guru's dealings with devotees, we have to take it all into consideration. So I don't know if I read this already. The 23rd and 24th prominent devotees of Nityananda Prabhu were Sadashiva Kaviraj and his son Purushottam Das, who was the 10th Gopal. Ajanma Nimagna Nityananda Charane Nirantar Balya Lila Kore Krishna Sane. From birth, Purushottam Das was merged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And he always engaged in childish play with Lord Krishna. Tarputra Mahashoy Shikanu Thakur Jai Dehe Rohe Krishna Premamrita Poe. Sri Kanu Thakur, a very respectable gentleman, was the son of Purushottam Das Thakur. He was such a great devotee that Lord Krishna always lived in his body. Mahabhagavat Sheshta Datta Udaran Sarva Bhave Seve Nityananda Charan. Udaran Datta Thakur, the 11th among the 12 cowherd boys, was an exalted devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. He worshipped the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda in all respects. And he is Subahu in Krishna Lila. Acharya Vaishnavananda Bhakti Adi Kadi Purve Nama Chiloja Raghunatha Puri. The 27th prominent devotee of Nityananda Prabhu was Acharya Vaishnavananda, a great personality in devotional service. He was formerly known as Raghunath Puri. So this is another Raghunath. There are a number of Raghunaths.
Nath is dancer and Raghu is?
What did you say?
The name?
No, this is different from, this is Nath. You're thinking of Nat, not like Natyam. That refers to dancing or maybe drama also.
Yeah.
But this means Lord, like Jagannath, Lord of, like Jagannath, Lord of the universe. So this Raghunath means Lord of the Raghus, which is a name for Ramachandra, actually, isn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a name for the Raghus. I think refers to the dynasty of Ramachandra. Yeah, so Lord of the Raghus. Vishnudas Nandan Gangadas Tina Bhai Purvejar Gode Chila Thakur Nitai. Another important devotee of Lord Nityananda Prabhu was Vishnudas, who had two brothers, Nandan and Gangadas. Lord Nityananda sometimes stayed at their home. Nityananda Britya Paramananda Upadhyay Shri Jiva Pandit Nityananda Gunagai. Paramananda Upadhyay was Nityananda Prabhu's great servitor. Shri Jiva Pandit glorified the qualities of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. Paramananda Gupta Krishna Bhakta Mahamati Porvejar Gode Nityananda Vasati. The 31st devotee of Lord Nityananda was Paramananda Gupta, who was greatly devoted to Lord Krishna and highly advanced in spiritual consciousness. Formerly, Nityananda Prabhu also resided at his house for some time. And he appears in Krishna Lila as a gopi, Manju Meda. Narayan Krishna Dasar Manohar, Devananda Chadibai Nitai Kinkar. The 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and 35th prominent devotees were Narayan, Krishnadas, Manohar, and Devananda, who were always engaged in the service of Lord Nityananda. Hoda Krishnadas, Nityananda Prabhu Pran, Nityananda Padavino Nahi Janeyan. The 36th devotee of Lord Nityananda was Hoda Krishnadas, whose life and soul was Nityananda Prabhu. He was always dedicated to the lotus feet of Nityananda, and he knew no one else but him. Nakadi Mukunda Surya Madhava Sridhar, Ramananda Vasu Jagannath Mahidar. So this is a list of names. I won't translate that. Sriman, this is also a list of names here. Srimanta Gokul Das, Hari Harananda, Shivai Nandai Avadut Paramananda. And now this is another list of names. Vasanta Navani Hoda Gopal Sanatan, Vishnai Hajada Krishna Nanda Sulochan. Kamsadi Sain, Ramachandra Kaviraj, Govinda Shiranga Mukunda Teen Kaviraj. And these last three, they were all Kaviraj, doctors. Govinda, Shiranga, and Mukunda, they were all doctors, Kaviraj. Now this is another list of names. Pitambar, Madhavacharya, Dasa Damodar, Shankar Mukunda, Yana Das Manohar, Nartak Gopal, Ramabhadra, Gauranga Das, Nishinga Chaitanya, Minaketan Ramadas. This is more names. Vrindavan Das, Narayanir Nandan, Chaitanya Mangala Jeho Korilo Rachan. Vrindavan Das Thakur, the son of Srimati Narayani, composed Sri Chaitanya Mangal, later known as Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Bhagavate Krishna Lila Varnila Veda Vyas, Chaitanya Lilate Vyas Vrindavana Das. Srila Vyasadeva described the pastimes of Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vyas of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vrindavan Das. So this is this kind of beautiful interplay that takes place between Kaviraj Goswami and Vrindavan Das Thakur, where Vrindavan Das Thakur saying, I'm not the Vyas of Chaitanya Leela, I'm not the giver of Chaitanya Leela, Vyasadeva will come. And then Kaviraj Goswami is writing later, and he's saying Vrindavan Das Thakur is the Vyas. So Vrindavan Das, he's indicating Kaviraj Goswami. And Kaviraj Goswami, he's directly saying Vrindavan Das, he's the real Vyas. This is the real Vaishnava mood. And so Gurudev harmonized this beautifully and said they are both the Vyasas of Chaitanya Leela. One of the hidden pastimes and one of the revealed pastimes. Sarva Shaka Sheshta Virabhadra Gosai Tarupa Shaka Jata Tarantanai. Among all the branches of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Virabhadra Gosai was the topmost. His sub-branches were unlimited. Ananta Nityananda Gan Ke Koru Ganan Atma pavitrata hetu likila kotojan. No one can count the unlimited followers of Nityananda Prabhu. I have mentioned some of them just for my self-purification. E sarva shaka purna bhakva prema phole jare deke tare diya basailo sakale. All these branches, the devotees of Nityananda Prabhu, being full of ripened fruits of love of Krishna, distributed these fruits to all they met, flooding them with love of Krishna. Anargal prem sabar cheshta nargal premadite Krishna dite dore mahabal. All these devotees had unlimited strength to deliver unobstructed, unceasing love of Krishna. By their own strength, they could offer anyone Krishna and love of Krishna. Sankepe kohilawe nityananda gan jahara vadina pai sahasra vadan. I have briefly described only some of the followers and devotees of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Even the 1,000-mouthed Ch.Ch. Naga cannot describe all of these unlimited devotees. Shri Rupa Raghunath Pade Jaras Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. With an ardent desire to serve the purpose of Shri Rup and Shri Raghunath, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. So that's the end of that chapter. All the branches of the tree of Nityananda Prabhu.
Is there, because Virajana is so more merciful than Lord Nityananda, is there some bhajan for him, or is there some prayer for him?
There must be, but not in what we are chanting regularly. No. We don't hear. Yeah. Not that I can think of.
What's the next chapter?
The expansions of Advaita, Charja, and Gadadhar Pandit. Oh, and then we come to the appearance of Mahaprabhu. So the first 12 chapters, which are kind of setting the foundation, and then the Leela begins in chapter 13. The 2 chapters coming up. Okay. Any last comments? Anything? Should we close? Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jai.
Devi Dasi ki jai.
Get his kantar.
Harihara Jena Krishna Jara Vaja Namaha.
Harihara Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Jada Vaja Mada Vaja Kesavaja Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopala Govinda Sri Madhusudana.
Gopala Govinda Sri Madhusudana.
Giri
Vaishnava